Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows, Urgent Care. And this was my favorite episode so far of Season 5. I think that this one was firing on all cylinders, and even though there were some things that I did have a little bit of issue with, I think that this was more of a return to form where the characters were acting in character, the actors were on point, and we got good character moments and development and movement forward on big plot points. So, let's get started. So, this episode starts off and we see that these things have popped up for Laszlo. And he's like, Gizmo, where the fuck are you? I need to show you these things. And he's like, I was wondering if you were a vampire, so I took these frogs and I injected them with your blood. And we saw them, and they kind of transformed into Guillermo, getting hair and stuff like that. He's like, what the fuck's going on with this? And he's like, watch this. And then he like tosses them, and they start flying, like, well, floating, pretty much. And then they start dropping a little bit. And he's like, listen, they can do that. You're a vampire. You turn them. Like, we're going to do some experiments on this. And I love Laszlo's pretty much complete descent into almost mad scientist territory. I mean, he's trying to help Guillermo, but he's doing it in the most Laszlo-ish ways possible. He's like, all right, let's just fucking do this. Jump off the fucking landing. Well, jump off this top. Just do it. And fucking kicks it. It's like, you kind of need the panic to do it. And, he's like, maybe we could do it a little bit better. He's like, nope, you kind of need that. And he does it. And he's like, I'm doing it. And then Notch is like, screams for Laszlo. And then he fucking falls and breaks his foot. And pretty much was like where he was going to happen. And Laszlo's like, fine, whatever. And they're like looking, and on his foot is really fucked up. It is like put in a way that's not really good. And he's like, oh, God. Oh, what the fuck? And they at first are kind of like trying to figure out what to do with Guillermo, but then Colin Robinson comes in, and he's got a black eye. He's like, damn it, I'm really fucking having a bad time because I can't drain anybody and I can't feed because I've become too interesting. And this then leads them to like going to Colin Robinson and taking him into the living room and pretty much having a discussion while Guillermo is down there fucking with his foot screwed up. And of course they all feel like, Nandor, you go deal with this shit. He's like, yeah, he's my familiar, but just let's deal with this first. And he's like, I wasn't this interesting until I got back from Nam. And then Nandor's like, you were in Nam? And the thing is, I'm glad that they didn't go too in depth with it, but I'm just like, wouldn't Nandor be like, I mean, granted, since it was like a battle and a war kind of thing, he might be into it, but usually they kind of ignore most human kind of stuff, so I'm just like, would he know it? But that wasn't really the biggest kind of issue that I had with it. It like kind of goes later on into the episode. It's just a small kind of quibble, and we learned from Colin Robinson that no, he just went on like a bicycling thing in Nam and Vietnam, and that they found this dude with a like ox's asshole around him, like he was dead in a tree, and all of them are just like, holy shit, they're engrossed in this story. It's like, yeah, they must have found a landmine or whatnot. And it's like, okay then, what about the black eye thing? It's like, that one, it's just as bad. Like, they're thinking, you can't top a dead dude in a tree with an ox's asshole around his fucking neck. And then he's like, well, a thing from an airplane of frozen shit and piss fell onto a car, and the car got crushed, and then the mirror shot off and hit him in the eye. And Laszlo's, son of a bitch, fucking got it. Like, it's like, and now just fucking she's just like a frozen ball of shit and piss. Sorry, just their incredulity and just like, holy fucking shit. And it's interesting to see like the opposite kind of effect that Colin Robinson has with these interesting kind of things, where when he's really trying to drain someone, it's like, oh shit, the life force is out. And then I'm fucking losing it just trying to even explain that it was fucking great. And then they like get on Nandor to like kind of help Guillermo, but like he pins it on Nadja. She's like, fine, I'll take him to urgent care and shit like that because they haven't had had their familiars for years. So they kind of shared Guillermo, and they're trying to help Colin Robinson because he needs to feed. First off, Laszlo, in his mad scientist state, has devised a device to shift life force between people, and that it's painful, that you'll probably feel very like it's gonna be kind of weird and everything, and that you could possibly die. And Ender's like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. I will help him some other way. We'll just take him out and get him into a position to properly feed on people. So that's where it kind of diverges. This episode really did a great job of handling its A and B stories and keeping characters in character and dealing with all the kind of crazy stuff. So, let's do Colin Robinson stuff first. Because this is the one that kind of went on a little bit too long, but it still is interesting because we're kind of learning how he kind of deals with a situation where he's like pretty much almost dying with this kind of thing. So, Nandor takes him out, pretty much sets him up, these guys in an area where we got all these people pretty much eating dinner and everything, out on the outside street, and then he tries to like get into this one couple's kind of crawl to tell them about the history of doggy bags, but then he gets his foot ran over by a car, and then he's hopping around. People are like recording it and putting it on TikTok and stuff, but then the car comes back and it's an actor from Mad Men, John Slattery, I believe. He also let me see. Hot damn, I did get that right. John Slattery. He also played Howard Stark when he's older in the Marvel movies. Tony's father. That's where I more know him from. But then he's like, "Why the hell did you jump out in the street? And why the fuck did you run over my foot?" And he's like, "All right, let me take you home at least." And Nandor's like, "Yes, yes." And the thing is, Nandor's actually thinking ahead with this. Granted, if you were just watching this season, you'd be kind of surprised at that kind of fact, but Nandor sometimes does have inspiration. It's like, hey, listen, you, me, him, in a car, you can feed on this asshole. So, we start going. And, of course, Colin Robinson is attempting to feed on him, but he is trying to figure out his accent, pretty much is listening to him intently to try and get that kind of stuff, and it's not working. It's almost to the point that you would believe that this dude is an energy vampire as well. I was almost waiting for that kind of reveal, and I think that would have been pretty great. But I think he was just really too much into his shit, and the guys are just like, fuck this shit. Because he's trying to figure out his accent and trying to get all this kind of stuff, and they're just driving not towards the home, and they're like, fuck this shit. Him and Nandor just, like, actually jump out of a moving vehicle. It's like, holy fucking shit. And then proceed. Nandor comes up with this quick and dirty kind of scheme for him to go into this convenience store, try and drain some people using the bathroom and everything. But again, he then gets stymied. And the thing is, it's kind of like, oh god, the same kind of thing. And we see that the robber's like, hey, I've seen you on TikTok. And they've already done this kind of stuff. And it's enough to distract the robber that the owner dude's able to knock his ass out. He's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. But then Colin Robinson's pretty much dying. So Nandor takes him back. They initiate the life force kind of thing. But the thing is, it pretty much kills Nandor. And then, of course, this is where the other storylines kind of link up. Laszlo leaves. And Colin Robinson's like, I can also... He's like, go ahead. I'll talk to Nandor. If I can, like, take life force, I can impart it back in. So he then talks to Nandor and tells him his true name, which is Arthur Simon Santiago, with his initial spell ass. So that's why he changed his name. If that's true or not, I don't even know, but we'll see about that. And that he's got a Bowie knife that he had his boyfriend Davy Crockett from the Alamo. It's like, interesting. Okay, well, It's interesting kind of lore and everything. I hope it's actually true. We get a kind of build up on that, but he's with all these different kind of information, and Nandor comes back to life. So now we are back to what's going on with Guillermo and Nadja. Guillermo is freaking out because he's like, if she takes me to a doctor or whatnot, she just needs to leave me. But the thing is, she actually commits to getting Guillermo help. Now, granted, it's a vampire helping a familiar help, but she actually even kills somebody. And the urgent care for the familiars is a veterinary clinic. And the veterinary clinic stuff doesn't just stop there. Nadja's been there before. She knows what's going on. Guillermo's like, what the fuck's going on? And they go through this wall, kind of Harry Potter style. And then we see him kind of taken off. We see her kind of making small talk with this other one. Oh yeah, my familiar, like 40 years old. And they're like, they immediately are like, let's just put him down. It's like, yeah. And she makes small talk with Nadja. Nadja's like, oh, this fucking one. It's like, we need to get out of here before they learn about his Van Helsing blood, which thank God they fucking brought that up. Thankfully, it's like it was firing on all cylinders. It's like, yes, all this stuff. God, I'm like, this would have made for a great first fucking episode for the season and just got you in. And I'm like, this is the quality that I loved from the show. And this, I'm like, bang, it's on point. So she's kind of waiting around, and then the doctor's like, we got some weird kind of results. We're gonna kind of like run the test again and everything. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Just give me my familiar. He'll heal up. And he's like, that was actually kind of the weird thing. He's healing up pretty damn fast. And then coming and saying that like he's a fledgling vampire, and that they were pretty much taking him to be put down, kind of like sedate him a little bit. And Nadja does not have any of that motherfucking shit. She's pissed off. She's like, who the fuck turned him? Nandor's gonna kill him. We're gonna kill him. All that kind of, like, I'm taking him back so that Nandor can fucking kill his ass for what's going on. And then she goes beast fucking mode, using her, like, screaming powers and everything, slamming people back into shit. We find out that the guide volunteers there and has her own little bit, which will work because of value added and didn't kind of distract with the story going on. Learning that they've got stray familiars, and he's like, the familiar's just locked in the cage and she's trying to give him chicken. And he's like, I got a family, and she's like, shut the fuck up. The guide, not Nadja. But she's going around, gets to Guillermo, and we see that he's kind of loopy, talking about, he says bitch a lot, when he's kind of loopy and everything. Granted, she also got up at him a little bit before, they started kind of like taking him away to kind of like see what's kind of going on. But then he, of course, came out, she had to like talk with the doctor, and then she starts kind of talking to him here, and he reveals that he had Derek do it, and she's like, fucking Derek? And she's like, no, we're getting home so that way Nandor can fucking kill your ass. And then the veterinary dude comes in to try and put Guillermo down, and now just like, and so we have this great fight scene where she's fighting and Guillermo's using his telekinesis pretty well, with what's kind of been going on. And helps her out. She does get kind of stuck in the face with the poison, but it's kind of a little bit fucked up. But we get Guillermo utilizing the line from Aliens, get away from her, you bitch! And then he kind of like stabs the dude in the arm with the poison, and he dies, and they kind of go home. And Nadja's like, I want to tell Nandor. And then we get him kind of linking back up with what's going on. Nandor finds the little Guillermo frog, and like, instead of thinking that like Guillermo's blood was used to turn it into whatever frickin' monstrosity it is, he somehow thinks that like weird fucking animals have gotten it into the house and just bred this fucking thing. And Nadja, who was at first going to tell Nandor, decides not to, and is now within the cabal of Laszlo Guillermo, and working on this, as Laszlo pretty much laid to her, I'm trying to cure him enough that Nandor can then turn him. It's like we can still salvage the situation. And then Colin Robbins is like, he might have the, Nandor might have the IQ of a Russian toilet, but I know something's going on. And then Guillermo was about to tell me, he's like, I don't give two squirts, just fuck off, whatever. And that's pretty much where it is. We see that Nadja's not happy about the situation, but she has decided to stay with her husband's kind of judgment on this, and I don't think it's out of any kind of thing for Guillermo, but more a little bit about Nandor as well, to see if maybe this situation can be salvaged in that kind of way, which is kind of cool. Granted, I hope that this kind of links back to just actually getting rid of the whole kind of curse thing. And the interesting thing is we didn't even get a link up with the doll in this episode, which worked out fine by me because we had actual Nadja going fucking Hambo beast mode doing shit and actively acting as her own character again. It's like, yes. And fucking Laszlo was just fucking booping and bopping throughout this episode. They were delivering lines with such aplomb. It was just fucking amazing. It's like everybody is on point here. What the fuck? It's awesome. And then we get a little tease at the end, which I was watching it and I first didn't get it, but then I watched this with my mom and she's like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of the Budweiser frogs, because he's just sitting around in his thing, and then we open up the frog and the frog's like going Guillermo, and it's like, oh, Budweiser. Like, okay, granted, I never really got those commercials, or like that was a little bit before my time. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, they had a lot of good references that were, he's just drinking something and everything, and then he sees the frog, he's like, cool, and then just closes back up and then just doing whatever the fuck he's doing. And I just loved seeing Laszlo doing all of his weird, crazy shit, trying to help Guillermo, and also trying to help Colin Robinson and Nandor with their whole situation. Seeing what happens when an energy vampire cannot feed in the way that they usually have to feed, with like draining the life force in certain kind of ways, and how that becomes a very real kind of threat to their lives, and how they kind of had to get out of that. I just found it funny that the first thing that they were going to do is what they eventually did at the end, because of how dire the situation became, with all the different kind of like crazy shit that it just escalated enough. Now granted, it went on a little bit too long for my liking, not terribly long. I mean, this isn't South Park level where they beat the fucking joke to death and it's like still an episode gone. I'm like, oh god, we're still gonna get through this. But I love this episode. It executed well on its points. It merged the storylines beautifully. And this is what I hold up for with what we do in the shadows. This kind of standard that they've set when they are like on point. I'm really glad we saw this. And I hope that this trend continues for the rest of the episodes of the season. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.